Welcome to Miskakul, the gateway to a place full of exciting histories. Today, we will talk about the Carnival. The Carnival. If today we look for a synonym for the word carnival, the word party almost certainly comes to mind. Carnival has been with us since the beginning of time, and over the centuries it has represented many things. Even if we were not born or lived in one of the places where the great carnivals of today are celebrated, this celebration is so closely linked to each one of us that it could even define us. Carnival, that important celebration that is part of the most exciting history you can tell, the history of your life. Carnival comes from the Latin carnelevare, which means to remove flesh, that is, to abstain from consuming meat before Lent. Carnival amalgamates belief, rituals, music, and dance in honor of the gods and humanity itself. It has been linked to the development of agriculture, the change of seasons, the expansion of empires, and is one of the expressions that binds cultures together. Some of the first manifestations of Carnival can be attributed to the inhabitants of ancient Sumeria, some 5,000 years BC, who celebrated the fertility of the earth and drove away evil spirits from the harvest in front of a bonfire. Many peoples created rituals to coincide with a celebration of the end of the good winter in the northern hemisphere and the arrival of the spring, or to commemorate the end of the dry season at the beginning of the rainy season. At the dawn of civilization, there was no certainty about when or how the earth would provide us with these fruits. Until we master the cycles of harvest, the change of seasons, the lunar phases, among other knowledge, any prayer, ritual, or code was not enough to ask for a change in the condition that defined the survival of an entire people. Another interpretation of the word carnival is flesh to ball, an ancient Phoenician deity who was the god of rain, thunder, and fertility, who was worshipped to procure good harvest. Over the centuries, after the Protestant Reformation, this deity was reinterpreted as a false idol, even assistant to the devil. As it could not be otherwise, the carnival reverberated in Rome, starting with the Saturnales, where masters and slaves changed their roles for a few days, custom that was believed to maintain social peace, as at least once a year citizens could laugh at their tyrants. Rome adopted Christianity, so the church added and redefined this pagan tradition by incorporating it into the liturgical calendar, so that it reduced it to just 3 days prior to Ash Wednesday, when Lent begins with fasting and abstinence. In the Middle Ages, Carnival was synonymous with all kinds of excesses. Then, the body was considered the abominable dress of the soul, where tears were a gift and laughter was despicable. We should be put aside and postponed because it was the devil's property, according to Le Goff in his work A History of the Body in the Middle Ages. An interesting painting of the medieval carnival is reflected in the Oleum panel, The Battle Between Carnival and Lent, 1559, work of the Flemish painter Peter Bruegel, where people occupy a large square and you can see the inn on the left side and the church on the right, one for enjoyment, the other for the devotion, one for gluttony, the other for fasting and abstinence. The painting subtly embraces human ambiguity, often easily driven by excess, by enjoying simple things, but at the same time The human wants to believe in something, stick to some principles, some values. Let him go back to his origins, back to his essence. During the Middle Ages, one of the oldest festivals still in use today emerged, the Venice Carnival, which has been celebrated since 1268. The use of masks allows one to change one's identity, where no one knows who is who. The culture, aesthetics, and current impact of this festival deserves its own story. With expansion to the New World by Portuguese and Spanish, the Carnival reaches America, merging with indigenous cultures and people of African origin. From North America to Patagonia, carnivals are celebrated. In Colombia, Bolivia, Chile, Uruguay, and other Latin American countries, they gather millions of people, each with their own particularity and cultural wealth, which deserves its own chapter. But those that deserve mandatory mention are the carnivals in Brazil. As an overseas territory conquered by Portugal, Brazil received millions of Africans who arrived through the slave trade as part of the expansion of the Old World monarchy. Therefore, many of the traditions of carnivals come from the customs of African tribes who celebrate their own rituals to drive away evil spirits and clear the air of bad vibrations. These African roots give rise to contributions as majestic as the samba, a musical rhythm that is today part of the cultural heritage of humanity. Thus, the typical carnival dance began to appear, which are a way of celebrating the freedom achieved by slaves from their masters, and at the same time, the result of African influence within Brazilian culture. These celebrations and the time of the conquest mean for the slaves a moment in which they could confuse their roles. Social barriers were blurred, and they were lost behind the customs, music, and memory of their ancestors. Nowadays, carnivals in Brazil are much more elaborate and receive visitors from all over the planet and are broadcast to audiences of millions of people. They have the participation of samba schools, which we can see in Rio de Janeiro or Florianopolis. Electric trios are also popular in other parts of the country, such as in Salvador de Bahia. Each of the samba schools present a specific theme which is elaborated during the year prior to Carnival. This theme is exhibited in the traditional parade at the Sambódromo and is accompanied by the dancers amidst courage, colors, and joy. With all the historical, cultural, and identity burdens of this nation, Brazil's carnival brings tradition to live and gathers hundreds of years of memory in a few days. In short, carnival is a cultural manifestation that serves to appreciate the roots and maintain the customs, as well as to teach the new generations the feeling of belonging and rootedness. Carnival is not and will not be without controversy. For some, it's the ultimate expression of bad taste, or associating it with perversion and debauchery. For others, it's a reunion of their roots with those they love and the meaning of their entire life. Carnival is, in the end, like life itself, a definition of our own reality, and by understanding its great history, We can rewrite our present and be part of the history that others will later tell. For my part, I can only say that if I could paint my words, I would choose the colors of the Brazilian carnivals. Miska Kubun, February of 2025. Listening to us. I hope that through our story you found the ways to create a better present for everyone. On our channel, you will find the bibliographical reference, as well as the mention and thanks to the authors of the audiovisual resources used for the creation of this content. Script, content creation, editing, and production, Miska Kubun. Now, go out and live in a way that vibrates with your memories, and your story deserves to be told.